believe we are going to have a discussion. But I'm afraid that word implies that we are trying to find truth through argument, debate. And with so many people, I'm afraid discussion is not possible. Nor is dialogue. Dialogue being conversation between two people who are friendly, and that is not also possible with so many people. And also we thought of having about 10 or 12 people in front here, have a dialogue with them, and those who want to join in, come in also. But that's not also possible. So, what should we do? Shall we have a question and answer meeting, or a dialogue with 2 or 3 people who are seriously enough concerned with their life, with their surroundings and with the environment, with politics and so on, to have a dialogue with those few people. And those who wish to join can, so that they are not chosen specially or anyone is excluded. So what shall we do? Beg pardon? Which is question and answer? You want few people talking? Now who is going to choose the few people? If I choose or somebody else chooses, you will consider they are our favorites. And
perhaps someone has a question.
what's up?
That those who wish to be part of the dialogue come forward.
Question and answers are the best.
Question and answer. Would you like that? J'ai oublié mon mouchoir. Ça va, merci. So would you like a question and answer meeting or a dialogue between 2 or 3 people? And you choose those 2 or 3 people, not the speaker or somebody else. Merci. Thank you so much. Play by ear. How do you do that?
Perhaps it might go one way or the other, or both. Perhaps one question.
Can we start off, if I may suggest, with a question and answer meeting, and then see how that works out, and then out of these question and answers, we'll find who can have a dialogue, who can exchange, who can say, look, I don't understand this, what do you mean by this? Let us talk about it, let's go into it much more, so that there is a conversation between the speaker and yourself. Can we try that? Question and answer first, then a dialogue, that is a conversation between 2 or 3 people. We'll see how this works out. Bene, andiamo.
Can I put one question?
Yes, sir. So now just a minute. Before you put questions, please, we are asking questions affecting our lives, our daily life. How to bring about, or rather, is it possible to bring about a radical transformation in our daily existence, in our consciousness, a radical change in our whole way of thinking, looking, observing, acting. That's what we are concerned with. And if you ask questions, hypothetical questions or theoretical questions, I'm afraid I won't answer. That's fairly simple and clear. So please ask questions directly concerning yourself, because you are the rest of the humanity. And if you want to find out how to resolve your problems, how to look at the life as a totally different thing, from that ask question, then it's worthwhile. But if you ask questions which are not actual, factual, but theoretical, then I'm afraid we won't have, at least I won't be able to answer it.
May I ask a question?
Just a minute, he's asking.
I feel that there is a common thing among us all at times, and I can't see it. I can't hear it, but I feel there is something. Can you tell what is the problem? I can't describe it.
What is the problem, sir?
That there is something common among all the human beings.
What
What is that?
Oh, we have explained very carefully during these talks and in the past that wherever you go in the world, human beings are caught in a trap of sorrow, misery, confusion, uncertainty, disorder, and so on, so on. That is the common factor of all human beings living on this unfortunate earth.
Do you see that the psychological fear, greed and violence in each one of us is the direct transformation of the physical violence toward the other sentience for profit and food? Or in other words, butchering animals is the prime cause of our misery.
I haven't understood. Killing animals.
For the food and profit
Huh?
is the...
What is the question, sir? What is the question?
Do you see that the psychological fear, greed and violence in each one of us is the direct transformation of physical violence toward the sentience?
Oh, I see. Biologists and others have said that we are the result of the evolution, in the process of evolution, we are the result of the animal and so on. The animals are violent. Therefore, we have inherited that violence. Now, what's the question? The question is whether human beings can be free of that violence.
That's right.
Are you really concerned about it?
Yes, sir.
And that is a matter of daily occupation that you really deeply profoundly, seriously. There's an urge to be free of that.
Yes.
Just miss, that's the question I'm asking. If it is, then let's talk about it. Otherwise, if you say, well, theoretically I'd like to be free, but I'm going to kill animals all the same, then it's no meaning. So, what is violence? How does violence arise? And there is not only physical violence, hitting each other, throwing bombs at each other, killing each other, but also there is various forms of violence. It is violence when human beings are in conflict psychologically. That's a form of violence, surely. It's another form of violence is when we imitate, when we conform, when we follow. All those are indications, like being angry and so on, are a form of violence, right? So when we talk about violence, we are not only talking about psychological factors of violence, but also the physical actions of violence, hitting each other, throwing bombs at each other, and so on, so on, so on. The terrorists, the totalitarian states which suppress people, all that is a form of violence, right? Now, is it possible to be free of that violence? Psychologically, let's begin first psychologically, not physically. We are saying, is it possible? It is only possible, isn't it, when you can come face to face with it and deal with it, right? Not have theories, ideals of non-violence and all the rest of it, right? That is an escape from the fact. I want to be free from violence. Therefore, there must be an awareness of all the factors of violence and observe them, not run away from them, not say, I must change them, I must become non-violent. In becoming non-violent, you are in conflict, right? Because you are violent and you want to become non-violent, and therefore you make an effort, and that very effort is a form of violence. That's right? Can we go on from there? So, is it possible to be free of violence and look at the whole issue, the complex problem of violence, psychologically? Which means, are we imitating, conforming, adjusting ourselves to a pattern which we or others have established for us? All those are symptoms of violence, like anger, hatred, jealousy. Now, can we remain with that factor of violence and be aware choicelessly of the whole structure of violence? Will you do it? Are you doing it now? Are you doing it, sir? The questioner? Is the questioner who put that question, is he doing it? Or is it just a theory about violence? Where there is division between man and man, woman and man, and so on, there must be conflict, which is a form of violence. Nationality, nationalism, and so on is a form of violence. Obviously. When there are two dogmatic beliefs and each trying to convert the other, opposing each other, it's a form of violence. So are we aware of this factor in our life? And when you become aware of it, what are you going to do? Just say, yes, I'm aware of it, but carry on with violence? Therefore, it becomes a very serious matter. If one is really to be free of violence, to look at it, to live with it, to understand it, to go into it and see all the multiple forms of violence, totally be acquainted with it. And when you are acquainted with something, it flowers and then this withers away. You don't have to fight it. Is that, will you do it? That's not. What?
Are you saying that we become violent?
Are we're not saying we become violent, we are violent.
He's not sure what you mean by flowering.
Sir, look, I'm violent. I observe it. Because I don't run away from it. I don't suppress it. I don't transform it into something else as a non-violence, which is absurd. That it's the transformation of violence into non-violence is stupidity. It has no meaning. So, as I am violent, I let it come out, not in action. Let it flower, let it grow, let it, as you watch it, it grows and dies. Haven't you done all this? That is, sir, when you are angry, at that moment of anger, you are not aware. You're full out. Then, a second later, violent, you say, I've been angry. Right? So you have divided yourself as not being angry and that you have been angry. So there is a division between the observer who says, I have been angry and I must not be angry. Right? So the division brings about conflict, saying I mustn't be angry, how am I to get rid of my anger, and so on, so on, so on. Whereas if you are aware of anger as it arises and let it come out non-verbally, non-actively, not say I'm going to hit you, let it flower, let it come out. And you will see it disappears very quickly and withers away. And if you do it properly, you are never angry again, finished. Cool. Same thing with fear.
Sir, when you say you should observe the totality of yourself, I find that very hard to do because I can only see what is coming up in the present moment. Is that the totality of myself, or are the whole feelings, the whole of the mental consciousness?
So now let's go into that, shall we? However, is it possible to be totally aware of the whole content of one's consciousness? That's the question, isn't it? Am I misunderstood the question? I'm coming to that. I'm asking if I'm telling you what the question is saying accurately. The question is asking whether it is possible to see the whole of the content of consciousness at one perception. I'm totally aware of the whole thing. Is it possible? When you have lived a partial life all the time, right? You look at life partially, don't you? You're a businessman, you're a doctor, you are a politician, you are a scientist, you are an artist, you are a writer, you are a laborer, a woman, and so on. Those are all divided parts, aren't they? And our whole conditioning is to look at life in parts. Right? Are you following this? In parts. Therefore, our conditioning is going to prevent seeing the totality of the whole of consciousness at one instant. So our concern then is not how to observe the totality of consciousness, but why does the mind or the brain observe partially? Why is the brain not capable of observing the total affair? The brain has been conditioned through millennia to look at life partly, right? That's clear, isn't it? We're all looking at life in fragments. Then my concern is, if I'm concerned about it, our concern then is, why does the mind or the brain observe in fragments, right? Why?
Exactly to mean by observing in fragments.
What do you mean by observing the fragments of life? Don't we live that way? In the office, I am brutal. I'm ambitious. I want success. I'm ruthless. At home, I come home and say, darling, how are you?
So that seems almost optional, whereas society seems to demand that we become more specialized.
Yeah, society demands that we become more specialized, which is fragmentation. Society demands it because they need more engineers, and so on, so on. But psychologically, we're asking, why does the brain function in fragments? As we are saying, it is, for a millennia, it's been conditioned that way. Now, is it possible to be free of that conditioning? Not how to look at the totality, but to be free of the conditioning as a nationalist, Arab, Jew, specialist, doctor, and so on. To take life as a whole. Because there is security in fragments, both in fragmentation. They're both physiologically as well as psychologically. That's obvious, isn't it? No? I specialize in becoming a guru. And I find in that specialization a great deal of security. Right? Both physical as well as psychological. I specialize as a doctor, as an engineer, as a businessman, as a priest, as a salesman, whatever you like. In that fragmentation of life, in the fragments, there's a great deal of security. And the brain and all the structure of the brain demands security. So it has found security in a fragment. Now, is there security in a fragment? Follow it up, please. Is there security in division? As a Hindu, as a Muslim, as a Christian, as an Arab, as a Jew, or in specialized career? Is there security? That's for you to answer. I can't answer that. If there is no security, and to find out that there is no security is the beginning of intelligence, isn't it? To say there is security in being a communist or a Catholic, I'm taking those two as an example. If I'm a Catholic, in a Catholic country, I feel very safe. Psychologically, I believe, and all the rest of it. In that belief, in that conditioning, there's security. And the same way, if I'm a communist, theoretically I believe in certain concepts of society, the power of the state and so on, control. And in believing that, there is a great deal of security. So one has to find out if there is security in division. Right? However profitable, however pleasurable, however comforting, is there security in division, which is fragmentation, obviously. Now, to find out that there is no security in fragmentation is beginning of intelligence. It's only the unintelligent who accept division and live in that division. Right?
Sir, if we are serious people, can the skill that you spoke of...
Have we finished this question? Now, this is a very complex question, so it's not just a couple of minutes. We live a fragmentary life. The essence of fragmentation is the me. Right? The me and the you, we and they. That's the essence of fragmentation. And we have lived that way, we are educated that way, we are conditioned to that. Because in that there is tremendous idea or illusion that there is security. Now to be free of that requires great deal of observation, living with the idea that I am really functioning in fragmentation, and where there is fragmentation there must be conflict, and therefore the importance given to the me. So can one be free of this fragmentary way of living daily?
Well, there seems to be no security in fragmentation, but fragmentation seems to continue as habit.
What's that?
Continues as habit. No security in fragmentation.
But it's habit. Now, all I say, doesn't matter if it is habit. All right, if it is habit, can you be free of that habit? Habit being conditioning. Otherwise, we live in constant battle with each other. However intimate we are with each other, husband, wife, and so on, there must be constant conflict. That's why so many families break up, all the rest of it. So we are asked to observe the totality of consciousness is only possible when there is no fragmentary existence. Then you see the whole thing at once. You see, we are also used to analysis, which is the continuation of fragmentation.
Sir, doesn't that mean the whole of the consciousness is nothing?
No, the whole of consciousness, first of all, is its content, isn't it? Its content makes up consciousness. Anger, jealousy, hatred, the innumerable hurts we have, nationality, beliefs, conclusions, hopes, all that is our consciousness. Is it possible to be aware of all this, not bit by bit, totally? And then to go beyond it, which means to be free of the content and see what happens. But nobody wants to try that.
It seems impossible.
You say if we try that without compassion,
Come on, sir. What's up?
you say that if we were to try that, what you have just spoken about, that without compassion, that would have any real meaning in the transformation of mankind?
I don't quite follow.
Well, I'll try and make it clearer if I can. You spoke on Saturday of three things: of compassion,
Clarity.
clarity, and skill.
Yes.
And you showed us very clearly how skill came into operation from clarity, and compassion comes in from.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, how do we bring in compassion if we haven't got compassion? If compassion has not brought us to this tent today, then what's the point of being here? My question to you was this: if we get this consciousness that you have talked about, but if there is no compassion, what's the point?
If there is no compassion.
Yes, if man has no compassion,
Quite right, sir. I know. There is no point.
fundamental that man hasn't got compassion.
Quite right. Man has not got compassion. Why?
That's the question.
Now go into it, sir. Why, as a human being, you or I or another, who is the essence of all humanity, right, sir? Psychologically, he is the essence of all humanity. Therefore, when you are aware of yourself, you are representing the whole of mankind. And you, or another, has no compassion. Why?
I think one of the problems is feeling that our problems are our personal problems.
I say our problems are not personal; it's universal.
I think this is one of the factors that prevents compassion, is feeling that it's my trouble.
No, we're trying to find out, sir, why have human beings who have so evolved technologically to such an enormous extent, why haven't they got this simple factor which is so intelligent, having to have compassion? Why?
Perhaps they're too busy.
Don't answer it. Find out why you, as a human being, living on this earth, which is meant for all human beings to live happily, why haven't you compassion? You, not somebody else. Madam, that's too quick an answer. You haven't gone into it.
Greedy, because I'm too greedy, because I want it too much.
Do you have to try to have compassion? Wouldn't it come naturally when you see yourself? Do you have to try to have compassion? Wouldn't it come naturally?
You haven't even investigated. You haven't even looked for a couple of seconds at yourself and ask yourself why you haven't got compassion. You're answering, throwing out words that may be your defense. Why have you, with all your experience, with all your knowledge, with all the civilization that you have behind you, of which you are the result, why this thing doesn't exist in your daily life?
Is it a question of self-preservation?
Is it a question of self-preservation? To find out why you haven't got it, why it doesn't exist in human heart and mind and outlook, don't you ask also a question, do you love anybody? What's that?
It's a mean question, at least for me, because I'm going to wonder what love is all about, what the definition of love is. Then it becomes
I'm asking you, sir, please, sir. I'm asking you most respectfully, whether you love at all anybody. You may love your dog, but the dog is your slave. Apart from animals and buildings and books and poetry and the love of the land, do you love anybody? Which means not asking anything in return. Right? Just listen, sir. Find out. Not asking anything from that person you love. Not dependent on that person at all. Because if you are dependent, then fear begins. Jealousy, anxiety, hatred, anger. And if you are attached to somebody, is that love? Now find out. And if all that is not love, I'm just asking, I don't say it is or it is not. If all that is not love, then how can you have compassion? We are asking for something much more than love. And even love we haven't got. Just the ordinary love for another human being. So, what shall we do? We can go on answering this question umpteen times. But if you, listener, don't listen, take it in, find out, then it becomes utterly meaningless to have a dialogue or discussion or question and answer meeting when you are not actively participating in the inquiry.
How to find that love?
I don't want to find that love. All that I want to do is to remove that which is not love. To be free of jealousy, attachment.
That means we should have no fragmental
Oh, sir, that's just theory. You see, you are going back again to theories. Find out if you love somebody.
Will there be conflict in that? If you find out how to that you don't have love and you not even anger in you, then won't there be conflict?
You haven't listened, madam. You haven't listened to what the speaker has been saying. How can you love when you are concerned about yourself? Right? Your problems, your ambitions, your desire for success, your desire for all the rest of it. You first and the other second. Or the other second and you first and you second. It's the same thing.
I would like to know whether it's possible to look at a feeling without bringing in thought.
We haven't finished this question, madam. Now, you see, we've asked so many questions. Now, how can we have a dialogue about this? Two people. You understand? 2 or 3 people sitting around here. You can sit, all of you can sit on this platform. And with me, those who want to discuss, dialogue. Can we do that now? Two of you, or half a dozen of you, sit here together and say, look, let's go into this. Why am I understand this verbally, that love cannot exist when there is jealousy. Love cannot exist when there is attachment. Now, how is it possible for me to be free of attachment? That's the dialogue. Then I'll have a dialogue with myself. Shall I? And you listen.
From the moment of conception up to being brought up, trained, being selfish, taken, and they are not never learned to give.
I know.
From a mother's womb up to being thrown into the wolves in the everyday's life, they are just taken.
We are saying that, sir, I'll have a conversation with myself, my dialogue with myself. I realize by listening to this that I don't love. That's a fact. I'm not going to deceive myself. I'm not going to pretend to my wife I love you, or to the woman or girl or boy. Now, first of all, I don't know what love is. I don't know what love is. But I do know that I'm jealous. I do know that I am terribly attached to her. And in that attachment, there's fear, there's jealousy, there's anxiety. There is sense of dependency. I don't like to depend, but I depend. Because I'm lonely and I'm shoved around by society all over in the office, in the factory, and I come home, I want to feel comfort, companionship, escape from myself. So I'm dependent, attached to that person. Now how am I, I'm asking myself, how am I to be free of this attachment? Not knowing what love is. I won't pretend love of God, love of Jesus, love of Krishna, all that nonsense. Throw it all out. Because I've thrown it all out. So I'm saying, how am I to be free of this attachment? I'm taking that as just an example. First of all, I won't run away from it. Right? I don't know how it's going to end up with my wife. You understand? When I am really detached from her, my relationship may change to her. She might be attached to me, and I might not be attached to her or to any other woman. Please, you understand? It isn't I want to be detached from her and join another woman. And that is silly. So I said, I'm having a dialogue with myself here. So, what shall I do? I won't run away from the consequence of being totally free of all attachment. I'm going to investigate. I don't know what love is, but I see very clearly, definitely, without any doubt, that attachment to that person means fear, anxiety, jealousy, possession, all the rest of it. So I ask myself, how am I to be free of attachment? Not the method. There is freedom from it. I don't know. I really don't know. So, I begin to inquire. Then I get caught in a system. You understand? You are following this? I get caught in some guru who says, I'll help you to be detached. Do this, this, this. Practice this, this, this. And and I want to be free from it, and I accept what the silly man says. Because I see the importance of being free. And he promises me that if I do this, I'll have a reward. So, I want to be free in order to have a reward. You understand? I am looking for a reward. So I say, how silly I am. I want to be free and I get attached to the reward. You're following all this? Good. At last. I think I better have a dialogue all the time with myself. So I represent the rest of humanity. And I really mean it. Therefore, when I'm having a dialogue with myself, I'm in tears. You understand? Not like you smiling. It's a passion for me. So, I don't want to be attached. And yet I find myself getting attached to an idea. You understand? That is, I must be free. And somebody or some book or something says, do this, you will have that. So the reward becomes my attachment. You follow? So I say, look what I've done. Be careful. Don't get caught in that trap. Whether it's a woman or an idea, it is still attachment. So I'm very watchful now. I've learned something. That is, exchange for something else is still an attachment, right? So I'm very watchful. Then I say to myself, is there a way, or what am I to do to be free of attachment? What is my motive? Do you understand? Why do I want to be free from attachment? Because it's painful? Because I want to achieve a state where there is no attachment, no fear, no etc., etc. What is my motive? Please follow me, because I'm representing you. What is my motive in wanting to be free? And I suddenly realize a motive gives a direction, right? And that direction will dictate my freedom. Are you following this? So, why do I have a motive? What is motive? A motive is a movement, a hope, or to achieve something. So the motive is my attachment. I wonder if you're following all this. No, do it so as we're talking. The motive has become my attachment. Not only the woman, the idea of goal, but my motive. I must have that. So I'm all the time functioning within the field of attachment. Right? The woman, the future, and the motive. To all this I'm attached. So I said, my God, it's a tremendously complex thing. I didn't realize that to be free of attachment implies all this. Right? Now I see this as clearly as I see on a map the roads, the villages, the side roads, the main road, very clearly. Then I say to myself, now, is it possible for me to be free of my motive, to which I am attached, to be free of the woman for whom I have great attachment, and also the reward which I am going to get when I am free. To all this I am attached. Why? Is it that I am insufficient in myself? Is it that I am very, very lonely? Therefore, escape from that feeling of extraordinary sense of isolation, and therefore cling to something. Man, woman, idea, motive, follow, cling, hold on to something. Now, is it I'm lonely? I'm taking that. Is it I'm lonely? Therefore, I'm escaping from that feeling of extraordinary isolation through attachment of another. Right? So now I'm not interested in attachment at all. I'm interested in understanding why I'm lonely, which makes me attached. Vous avez compris? I mean, you have understood? You're following me? My dialogue with myself, which is, I'm lonely. And that loneliness has forced me to escape through attachment to this or to that. Now I say, as long as I am lonely, all the sequence of this. So I must investigate why I am lonely. What does it mean? Right? What does it mean to be lonely? How does it come about? Is it instinctual, inbred, heredity, or is it my daily activity that's bringing about this loneliness? You understand? I'm going into it. I'm going to have dialogue with myself. Oh, Joe. If it is inherited, if it is an instinct, which I question, because I accept nothing. You understand? I accept nothing. Because I don't accept it instinct and say, I can't help it. If it is heredity, it's part of I'm not to blame. As I don't accept any of these things, so I say, why is there this loneliness? Now, I question it and remain with the question, not try to find an answer. I wonder if you understand this. Somebody following all this? I have asked myself, why does this loneliness, what is the root of this loneliness? And I'm watching. I'm not trying to find an intellectual answer. I'm not trying to tell the loneliness what it should be or what it is. I am watching it for it to tell me. I wonder if you understand this. Are we going along something together? So there is a watchfulness for the loneliness to reveal itself. It won't reveal if I run away, if I'm frightened, if I resist it. So I watch it. I watch it so that no thought interferes. Because this is much more important than thought coming in. Because my whole energy is concerned with the observation of that loneliness. Therefore, thought doesn't come in at all. You understand? Are you following this? Because mind is being challenged. And it must answer. And when you are challenged, it is a crisis. And in a crisis, you have got all the energy. And that energy remains without being interfered with. I wonder if you follow all this. Because this is a challenge which must be answered.
How can you hang on to your energy?
Huh?
How can you hang on and do something about this energy?
What?
What can you do about this energy?
No, I brought it. It has come. You've lost the whole thing. Look, I started out having a dialogue with myself. I said, what is this strange thing called love? Everybody talks about it, writes about it, romantic poems, pictures and all the rest of it. Sex and, areas of it. And I said, have I got this thing called love? Is there such thing as love? I see love doesn't exist. And there's jealousy, hatred, fear. So I'm not concerned with love anymore. I'm concerned with what is, which is my fear, attachment. And why am I attached? I say, well, maybe one of the reasons is, I don't say that's the whole reason. One of the reasons is I'm lonely, desperately isolated. The older I grow, the more isolation. So I watch it. And I follow this is a challenge to find out. Because it is a challenge, I've brought all energy is there to respond. Is that simple, isn't it? When there is death in the family, it's a challenge. And there's some catastrophe of an accident or whatever it is, it's a challenge and you have the energy to meet it. You don't say, well, where do I get this energy? When your house is on fire, you have the energy to move. You have extraordinary energy. You don't sit back and say, well, I must get this energy and wait. And your whole house will be burnt then. So, I have this tremendous energy. There is this tremendous energy to answer that question. Why is there this loneliness? Because I have rejected other ideas, you follow? Suppositions, theories, I've inherited, it is instinct, all that means nothing to me. It is what is. So, why am I lonely? Why is there, not I, why is there this loneliness? Which every human being, if he is at all aware, goes through this, superficially or most profoundly. And why does this come into being? Is it the mind is doing something which is bringing it? You understand? If I've rejected theories, instinct, inheritance, heritage, I've rejected all that, therefore I'm asking, does the mind bring this about? You understand my question, sir? Are you following or getting tired? Is the mind doing this? Isolation, I mean, loneliness means total isolation, right? So I say, is the mind, the brain doing this? The mind, which is the movement, partly the movement of thought, is thought doing this? You are following all this? Thought in daily life, is it creating, bringing about this sense of isolation? You understand? Which is, in the office, I am isolating myself because I want to be bigger, become the executive, or the pope, or the bishop, or the executive, Therefore, it is working all the time, isolating itself. Are you watching this? You understand, sir? Good.
So it seems to isolate itself in relation to how crowded it is.
Yes.
As a reaction to
That's right, sir.
the amount.
That's right. I want to go into this. So I see thought, the mind, is all the time operating to make itself superior, more, working itself to this isolation, towards this isolation. Right? Are you clear? So, now the problem then is, why does thought do this? Is it the nature of thought to work for itself? You understand what I mean? Is it the nature of thought to create this isolation? Does society create this isolation? Does education create this isolation? Right? The education is part of, it does bring about this isolation. Gives me a certain career, certain specialization, so it's isolation. You follow? So thought, being fragmentary, because I've found that. I've found that thought, which is the response of the past as knowledge, experience and memory, so thought is limited, right? Thought is time binding. So thought is doing this. So my concern then, why does thought do it? Is it in its very nature to do this? I came here for a discussion. But I came here for a discussion, dialogue. Now I am having a dialogue by myself. Too bad. I'll go on. Because this very, look what it is leading me up to. Leading. Oh, sir?
This is the fourth time I've stood up to say something, and you're saying that you're having a dialogue by yourself.
He said he stood up 4 times to say something.
But sir, are you telling me, please sir, are you having a dialogue with me?
Well, I had something to say which
Are you having a,
I thought related to what you...
are you having a dialogue with me?
Well, I don't know. I don't really know. But I'm never going to find out unless I stand up and say something.
We said, sir, please, we said dialogue implies conversation between two people. Are you and I conversing together about the same thing?
Well, we can't be. If every time I have something to say...
I'm asking you, sir, I'm asking, not the others, I'm asking you, are we having a dialogue between you and me about this thing, which is, why does thought create this isolation, if it does?
It was to do that because I thought that it came back from the beginning when you were talking about what is love, because it seems that if there's a moral obligation to love at all costs, which there was in my family, there's an affectation of love, then the mind is always deceived because I mean, like, nobody's really expressing their true feelings. People are masking their violence by politeness and some which they call love, and so therefore what is really inside is being hidden all the time, and therefore thought must be deceptive, it must cause isolation, because nobody knows what anybody else is feeling because of all the pretense.
We've been through that, sir. We are coming to the point when we are not pretending. I don't know what love is. We said in the dialogue that I don't know what love is. I know when we use that word, love, there is a certain pretense, certain hypocrisy, certain putting on a certain type of mask. We've been through all that. At the beginning of this dialogue, we went into that. So we come to the point now that why does thought, being a fragment, why does it bring about this isolation? If it does, I have found it does in my conversation with myself, because thought is limited. Thought is time-binding. Therefore, whatever it does must be limited. And in that limitation, it has found security. It has found security in saying, I have a special career in my life. It has found security in saying, I'm a professor. There I'm perfectly safe for after 7 years, you get a tenure, and there you're stuck for the rest of your life. And a great security, both psychological as well as factual. So thought is doing this. Now my question, the problem then is, can thought realize, please listen, but can thought realize that it is limited? And therefore, you understand, moment it understands that whatever it does is limited and therefore fragmentary and therefore isolating. Whatever it does will be this. Therefore, can thought, please, having a dialogue, this very important point, can thought realize its own limitation? Or does thought say to itself, I'm limited? You understand the difference? Are you all asleep? Thought, being me, I say thought is limited, and therefore says I'm limited. Or thought itself realizes I'm limited. Two things are entirely different. One is an imposition and therefore conflict, whereas when thought itself says I'm limited, it won't act, it won't move away from that limitation. This is very important to understand, because this is the real essence of this thing. We are imposing on thought what it should do. Thought has created the we, the me. And thought and the me has separated itself from thought and says, I will dictate, tell what thought should do. But if thought realizes itself that it is limited, then there is no resistance, no conflict. It says, I am that. I am blue. So, does thought, in my dialogue with myself, I'm asking, does thought realize this itself? Or am I telling it that it's limited? If I am telling that it's limited, then I become separate from the limitation. Then I struggle to overcome the limitation. Therefore, there is conflict, which is violence, which is not love. So, does thought realize itself that is limited? I have to find out. I'm being challenged, because I've got energy now. Because when I'm challenged, I've got all energy. Does consciousness, put it differently, does consciousness realize its content? Does consciousness realize its content is itself? Or I have heard another say, consciousness is its content makes up consciousness. Therefore I say, yes, it is so. You follow? Or does consciousness, this consciousness realize its content, and therefore this very content is the totality of my consciousness, right? Do you see the difference of the two? The one imposed by me, the me created by thought. Then if I impose something on thought, then there's conflict, right? It's like a tyrannical government imposing on some. But the government is what I've created. So, we're asking, has thought realized its own littleness, its own pettiness, its own limitation? Or is it pretending to be something extraordinary, noble, all the rest of it, divine? Which is nonsense, because thought is memory, experience, remembrance. So, in my dialogue, there must be clarity about this point. That there is no outside influence imposing on thought, say it is limited. So I thought then, because there is no imposition, you understand, there is no conflict, therefore it realizes it is limited. Therefore, whatever it does, its worship of God, its worship of Jesus, its worship is limited, shoddy, petty. Though it has created marvelous cathedrals in Europe and here. So, I have found there's been, in my conversation with myself, there is a discovery that loneliness is created by thought. And thought has now realized itself that it's limited. So, it cannot solve the problem of loneliness. You understand? As it cannot solve the problem of loneliness, does loneliness exist? You understand my question? Thought has made this sense of loneliness, right? And thought realizes that's limited. And because it is limited, fragmentary, divided, it has created this emptiness, loneliness. Therefore, when it realized that, loneliness is not. I wonder if you see this. Right? So, therefore there is freedom from attachment. I have done nothing. You understand? I have watched it, the attachment, what's implied in attachment, greed, fear, loneliness, all that, and by tracing it, looking, observing it, not analyzing, examining, but just looking. And there is a discovery that thought has done all this. Right? Thought has, because it is fragmentary, it's created this attachment. So, when it realizes, attachment ceases. I wonder if you see this. There is no effort made at all. Because the moment there's an effort, it's back again. You understand? So we have said love. If there is love, there is no attachment. If there is attachment, there is no love. So I've removed. There's been the removal of major factor in negation of what it's not, which is love is not attachment. You know what it means in your daily life? No remembrance of anything my wife, my girlfriend, or my neighbor told me. No remembrance of any hurt. No image about her, because I'm attached to the image, not to her. I'm attached to the image thought has created about her. She's hurt me. She's bullied me. She's given me comfort. I'm nice. I've had a pleasant time sexually. That 10 different things, which are all the movement of thought, which has created the image, and it is the image I'm attached to. So, attachment is gone. But there are other factors. Fear, pleasure, comfort in that person or in that idea. So, now, must I go through all this one by one, or all over? You understand my question? Must I investigate as I've investigated attachment, fear? Must I investigate the desire for comfort? Must I observe why I seek comfort? Is it because I'm insufficient? I want comfort. I want a comfortable chair, therefore I want a comfortable woman. Or a man, or whatever it is. A comfortable idea. I think most of us do have a comfortable, secure idea which can never be shaken, and to which I am deadly attached. And so anybody that says nonsense to that, I get angry, I get jealous, I get upset, because he's shaking my house. So I say, I don't have to go through all the investigation of all these various factors. I see it at one glance. I've captured it. You understand now? So, through negation of what is not love, the other thing is. I don't have to ask what is love. I don't have to run after it. If I run after it, it's not love, it's a reward. So I've ended by In that inquiry, slowly, carefully, without distortion, without illusion, I've negated everything that's not. The other is, now I've had a good dialogue with myself.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Come on.
Maybe I didn't get it. Could you say loneliness is created by the experience of loneliness?
Beg your pardon?
Loneliness is created by the experience of loneliness.
I've explained all this, madam. I've not have explained. I've had a dialogue with myself. If you have listened to it, then you'll have got it. What is the time? Sorry. That's enough, isn't it?